Reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now. Tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Wants to go for a walk outside the house with a friend? Introducing iCapital, where you can get investment advice on the go. It is accessible via app and website. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. iCapital is reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now. Tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Wants to go for a walk outside the house with a friend? Introducing iCapital, where you can get investment advice on the go. It is accessible via app and website. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. iCapital is reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now. Tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Wants to go for a walk outside the house with a friend? Introducing iCapital, where you can get investment advice on the go. It is accessible via app and website. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. iCapital is reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now. Tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Wants to go for a walk outside the house with a friend? Introducing iCapital, where you can get investment advice on the go. It is accessible via app and website. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. iCapital is reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now. Tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Wants to go for a walk outside the house with a friend? Introducing iCapital, where you can get investment advice on the go. It is accessible via app and website. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. iCapital is reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now. Tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Wants to go for a walk outside the house with a friend? Introducing iCapital, where you can get investment advice on the go. It is accessible via app and website. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. iCapital is reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now. Tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Wants to go for a walk outside the house with a friend? Introducing iCapital, where you can get investment advice on the go. It is accessible via app and website. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. iCapital is reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now. Tired of doing investment research on stock markets? Wants to go for a walk outside the house with a friend? Introducing iCapital, where you can get investment advice on the go. It is accessible via app and website. Subscribe now to iCapital for stock news. iCapital is reliable because they thoroughly research listed companies, economies, and stock markets. iCapital provides a clear perspective of how markets interact and how it influences your investment. When investors and traders are debating whether to buy or sell their stocks, fret not, as iCapital will recommend Malaysian and global stocks. iCapital is available on Apple App Store, Google Play Store, and Huawei App Gallery. Download it now.
Hi, good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hope you had a good week. My name is Teng Boo. I'm Teng Boo from Capital Dynamics. For those of you who are not familiar with us, with myself or Capital Dynamics, basically we are an investment advisor and fund management group. We have offices in Sydney, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, Hong Kong, and Shanghai. The operations that we have in Hong Kong, Australia, and Malaysia are based on a full license. In other words, in Hong Kong, in Australia, and Malaysia, we are able to manage money of retail investors. So retail licenses, retail fund management licenses in Hong Kong, Malaysia, and Australia are not easy to get. We are very proud of those licenses. So we've been around since 1988, about 35 years. And we have this live session for a few reasons. One is to share our thoughts, observations on various topics: investment, non-investment, political, social, local, global. And what we promise you in our live session is views which are objective, opinions which we will be more than happy to share with you in a very transparent manner. For today, in the past, I guess if you have listened to us before, we have talked about various topics. Why the radioactive Fukushima water shouldn't be dumped into the Pacific Ocean. We've talked about the ringgit. We've talked about social issues like why the new Pavilion shopping mall shouldn't be open. And then you heard that recently TRX is open and it was so crowded, and there's another shopping mall. So we talk about all kinds of issues. And for today, it's more investment related because our topic today is about Charlie Munger. I'm not sure, maybe if you could just respond to us by replying to us and see how many of you are familiar, know who Charlie Munger is, and how many of you know who Warren Buffett is. Maybe you can just send in your comments, and then that will help us in the amount of explanation that we have to do when we talk about Charlie Munger and particularly Charlie Munger today. And the reason why we focus on Charlie Munger is because he just passed away. He's 99 years old, and he just passed away a few days ago. And If you can see the first picture that I've shown you, right? This is a photo of Berkshire Hathaway, and Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger are the two main person managing Berkshire Hathaway. They have built up Berkshire Hathaway from about 50, 60 years ago. So Berkshire Hathaway is a huge conglomerate. Just based on the cash that Berkshire Hathaway has at the moment, is about 165 billion US dollars cash, not counting the entire assets. So the other person that is running Berkshire Hathaway is, of course, Warren Buffett. Can be right. He is also not that young. He's about 93 years old, about 5-6 years younger than Charlie Munger, and these two have been partners for a very long time. I mean, based on the interviews that they have conducted, they have always, both sides, Charlie Munger and Warren Buffett, have always said that in their 50, 60 years of relationship, they have never quarreled with one another, which is amazing. You know, these two people are super smart, very successful, and in many ways quite different from the typical billionaire from America. And when Warren Buffett was first introduced to Charlie Munger in 1959, I think, he was introduced. They were at a dinner, and some people introduced Buffett to Charlie Munger. And according to whatever Buffett has reviewed, he says that from the first meeting in 1959, he knew that Charlie Munger is the type of person, is the type of person that the two of them are going to be able to get along very well. Because on that dinner and that evening when they had dinner, Charlie Munger would make jokes and laugh at his own jokes. So he says that's the type of person that he is as well. So they got along very well, and on the first night, apparently, they were able to talk for hours. It's amazing. I mean, the relationship that they have been able to build. Both super rich. Of course, Buffett is much richer than Charlie Munger, even though Charlie Munger is a billionaire in US dollar terms. And, you know, very often you get people who are able to work together for a period of time, and once they become really successful, or once things don't work out, then their relationship would break up. But for these two guys, it's lasted for decades, and apparently it has been a very happy, mutually satisfying relationship for two of them. I mean, that's something that's extremely precious. That's something that's beyond what money can buy. So I'm not sure, now that Charlie Munger has passed away, I'm not sure whether Warren Buffett would have some emotional impact on him. You know, it's like you hear stories of when husband and wives, when they are very close to one another, that they've been having a long successful relationship, and when one of the partners passes away, then very soon after that, the other person will also pass away. Right? You hear, at least I hear this kind of experiences quite often, because somehow Don't know whether it's the other person calling, the other partner calling the other partner, or whether they feel lonely, or it's like as if they're both destined. I'm not sure whether it happened in this case, but let's see. Anyway, today's topic is not about uh, their relationship. Today's topic is why, from my perspective, as an outsider, as a non-American, as an Asian, why uh, I respect Charlie Munger more than I respect Warren Buffett. Both have very similar values, very similar philosophies in life, but I guess they're not exactly the same. They're not 100% identical. So there are differences between the two of them. And I think I first know about Warren Buffett back in 1982. And Charlie Munger, I got to know about his achievements, his life history, a lot later. I think was towards the late 80s or the early 90s, about 5 to 10 years later, then only I started reading about Charlie Munger. So when it comes to uh, investment, I think in terms of investing style, both are value investors. There's no doubt about it. Both are very long term. They can hold stocks for a long, long time. So why is it that, and both have contributed, donated a lot in terms of philanthropy, right? Although there are certain differences between the two. So why is it that, having watched these two brilliant gentlemen for decades, why is it that I respect Charlie Munger more than I would respect Warren Buffett? Uh, for those of you, can we see this book? For those of you who wants to know more about, not just about the investment philosophy of Charlie Munger, but about his philosophy in life and so on and so forth, because Charlie Munger has got multiple talents. He actually he first enrolled himself as a mathematics undergraduate in University of Michigan, right? And then the Pearl Harbor was attacked, and his education got disrupted, and then he continued. And after that, I think he went to California Institute of Technology, Caltech, where he was supposed to be trained as a meteorologist or something like that. So he has got scientific skills, scientific knowledge, mathematical skills, plus investment. And after that, he went to Harvard Law School and trained as a lawyer, set up his own law firm, and found that whatever he was earning at that time from his law firm, his law practice, was not satisfied, was not sufficient for him. So he needed more. And then he started to invest on his own, and pretty successful, pretty good returns. So you find that uh, in terms of the scope, the types of experiences, exposure that Munger has compared with Buffett, Munger has a lot more, and Charlie Munger was inside the US Army as well. So he's got a lot more exposure to non-investing things than Buffett has, right, at a high level. And why is it that I respect one more than the other? Now, before I go to that, let me see how many people of you have responded. Well, June is familiar with both Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett. Wong Su Chai, aware of him. I'm not sure that him refers to Buffett or Charlie Munger. S.H. Tan, yes, he knows both of them. Hang Peng knows, call Hang Peng or whichever, I'm not sure. Yes, he knows them. And Katie Lee, yes. And Jit Singh says that iCapital introduced Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, and Joseph Schumpeter from our iCapital newsletter. Well, good thing. I mean, I'm glad to hear that you have benefited in that sense. And yeah, so generally, I mean, those 6 or 7 of you who responded, generally you are familiar with the two gentlemen. Now, this is Poor Charlie's Almanac. Like I said, if you want to know Charlie Munger in a more complete manner, this is a useful book. It's very heavy. I got a hard copy. I don't know if you can see the hard copy, right? This hard copy is the third edition, and it's about 500 over pages long. At that time, when I was trying to buy this book, it was about 20 years ago. It took me a long time because I couldn't find it. It was out of stock. And I was, I'm always a very curious person. I like to explore and all that. So I was walking in Collins Street in Melbourne, Australia. Then I saw this bookshop called the Specialist Investment Bookshop, right? And I walk in, and guess what? It's a pretty small bookshop in Melbourne. In this bookshop, I saw this copy, Poor Charlie's Almanac, where I've been trying to buy for many years, and I couldn't get it. Don't forget, at that time, things like Amazon.com and all that were not that popular yet, so it's very difficult to hunt for the book worldwide. So when I saw it, of course, I immediately grabbed the book because it's supposed to be a gold mine. Anyway, this is where you want to read widely about Charlie Munger. But if you want to more focus on investment, then can we take a look at the next book? This is a few years ago. It's not the latest, but it's pretty good, and it's about Charlie Munger from an investment point of view. So for those of you who just want to focus more on the investment side of Charlie Munger, this would be helpful. This book was published in 2015, so it's not that new, but not that old. And I think because Charlie Munger's investment philosophy hasn't really changed. So if you are just interested in that area of Charlie Munger's broad range of skills, then this would suffice. Of course, there are many other books about Charlie Munger, and it's up to you to choose whichever you prefer. Whichever book you buy, I don't get any commission from the publisher or from the writer. Now, coming to the crucial part about the topic, why I respect Charlie Munger more. I think most people may not know that it was basically Charlie Munger. When Warren Buffett started to invest, he was very much influenced by Benjamin Graham, because Warren Buffett was a student of Benjamin Graham, and Benjamin Graham was like Warren Buffett's hero. And Warren Buffett, even after graduating, Warren Buffett even wrote to Benjamin Graham and offered to work for Benjamin Graham for free. And Benjamin Graham actually rejected Warren Buffett. Only later, then Benjamin Graham decided to take in Warren Buffett. So Buffett was very influenced by the traditional approach of Benjamin Graham, which means that You look for value stocks, you look for discounted stocks, cheap in terms of valuation. But Benjamin Graham method was very much quantitative bias. Quantitative doesn't mean using machine learning or mathematics or high-level statistics. Quantitative means Benjamin Graham focused a lot on financial numbers. He was looking basically at a lot of financial analysis, right? So if company A has got, say, net tangible asset of, say, 5 ringgit, and then based on his conservative method, he'll take out a lot of liabilities, take out a lot of asset, and then on a very conservative adjustment of asset value, and the share price is still below the adjusted asset value, then Benjamin Graham would be interested in buying the stock, right? So that was what Ben Graham is famous for, and that's what Warren Buffett followed. But by the time when Warren Buffett met Charlie Munger, over the next couple of years, Charlie Munger started to influence Warren Buffett to look at investing in a rather different way. Warren Buffett was also somewhat influenced by Philip Fisher, and Charlie Munger's approach is closer to Philip Fisher. They are all value investors, but what Charlie Munger is more focused on is not on the quantitative aspects of valuation, but more on the qualitative aspect. That means you have to take into account management capabilities, the business model, particularly the business model. Because for Charlie Munger, he says, you cannot value a stock if you cannot value a business, right? So how do you value a business? You can only value a business only if you know the business model. And in Charlie Munger's case, if the adjusted asset is, let's say, 5 ringgit and the share price is 6 ringgit, he will still buy it, because based on his way of valuing the company, which includes business model, qualitative factors, the share price of the valuation of 6 ringgit could be undervalued based on a complete valuation methodology. So even though the asset value could be 5, 6 ringgit and the share price is 2 ringgit above that, he will still find the stock to be attractive and undervalued. So according to what Warren Buffett says, Charlie Munger shoved me in the direction of not just buying bargains, as Benjamin Graham had taught me. Ben Graham is cheap stock, bargain stocks. This was the real impact Charlie Munger had on me. It took a powerful force to move me from Graham's limiting views. It was the power of Charlie's mind. He expanded my horizons. So I think it's difficult because Warren Buffett was already successful, was investing based on Graham's method, and he was really making money. And why should I change my methodology when I'm really doing well with Ben Graham's method? But Charlie Munger was able to do it. And let me just give you the advice that Charlie Munger gave Warren Buffett. He says, a great business at a fair price is superior to a fair business at a great price. So that was what struck Buffett. And when Berkshire Hathaway first bought See's Candies, which actually made a lot of money for Berkshire Hathaway, it was overvalued in terms of Benjamin Graham's traditional method, right? But Charlie Munger was able to convince Buffett that, look, even though based on Graham's method, See's Candies was overvalued, but based on Charlie Munger's approach, and which is similar to Philip Fisher, See's Candy, even though it's selling way above the asset valuation, was a bargain, was cheap, because the business of Sea Candies was superior, was a good business. Okay, let me just read another sentence, another quotation, right? Okay, from this book it says, Philip Fisher, who is also a value investor, assigns significant weight to the quality of the underlying business. So did Charlie Munger. But Graham, Buffett did not. They ignored it, right? And for Charlie Munger, the approach used by Philip Fisher was far superior to that of Benjamin Graham. So if you look at what Warren Buffett is doing now, presently, right, the way he bought Apple and so on and so forth, he is more Charlie Munger, more Philip Fisher than Benjamin Graham. And if you buy Charlie Munger's reasoning, if you're able to buy a business with superior quality at the right price, it is still a bargain, right? That transformed Berkshire Hathaway. Is able to buy See's Candies, is able to buy Apple, is able to buy a lot of other investments that Warren Buffett wouldn't have bought without Charlie Munger's influence. So that's the first thing, that I think a lot of the huge success that Berkshire Hathaway has achieved can be attributed to the influence that Charlie Munger has. And I think from that point of view, the contribution of Charlie Munger to Berkshire Hathaway's success is tremendous. But why should I respect Charlie Munger more than Buffett just because of that? You see, Warren Buffett had Benjamin Graham as a mentor. Remember, he went to the classes that Benjamin Graham was teaching, and he went to work for Benjamin Graham. So he had a brilliant mentor. Charlie Munger was more self-taught. A lot of the things were self-taught. Like I told you, he started with mathematics degree, moved to Caltech, then moved to Harvard Law School, which is where he came out as a lawyer. And then, by the way, on the sideline, he started investing. So he did not have this mentor to teach him, right? And I think when you are self-taught, the journey is a lot more difficult, a lot more punishing. As I have explained in another live show before, in my case, I had no mentor as well. No one was there to teach me the principles of investing and so on. Mine was very similar to Charlie Munger, all self-taught. Charlie Munger in his law school and so on and so forth did not have accounting subjects. In my case, in my social sciences degree, I also did not have any accounting subjects, so I have to learn accounting and financial analysis all on my own. And then what are the principles involved? You read widely and you teach yourself, you make some mistakes and so on and so forth. So in the case of Charlie Munger, it was self-taught. And because I know how difficult it is to teach yourself about investing successfully, so I respect Charlie Munger a lot more than Buffett from that point of view, from that perspective. The other perspective is that Charlie Munger's personal life was a lot tougher than Buffett. Buffett he's admitted himself, to be fair to him, he's admitted himself that he's damn lucky he's born in the right time, in the right country, in the right place, and so on. So, and with his father's influence, so he had all the advantages in his favor. In the case of Charlie Munger, he divorced. Well, he and the first wife divorced, and his eldest son died from leukemia. And when the eldest son died, Charlie Munger was emotionally devastated. Whereas Buffett was, Buffett was totally different. Yes, he's his wife, but he was so lucky that he has a wife who is so understanding. I mean, I'm not sure whether that's the right word, that the wife was able to find another partner for Warren Buffett. I mean, can you imagine? I'm not single, I'm divorced. Can you imagine, say, a man, the wife would say, "Look, don't worry, if we can," because Buffett's wife wanted to do other of her own hobbies, wanted to stay somewhere else, and Buffett likes staying in Omaha and so on and so forth. So then the wife said, "Never mind, then I look for another partner for you." Wow, I mean, that's unheard of, really. So in one case, Munger's life experiences were a lot tougher compared to Buffett, and yet Charlie Munger was able to rise from quite a number of major setbacks, personal setbacks, right, and succeeded at more or less the same level as Warren Buffett. So in my case, I went through a very tough personal life. I got divorced after 35 years of marriage and so on, and a lot of other personal challenges. So I know that getting through that on its own was really tough. And in the case of Munger, he got through it and succeeded. So that, I think, I feel a very emotional attachment to the experiences that Charlie Munger has gone through. The other reason why I would respect Charlie Munger more than Buffett is comparing these two American individuals. I think Charlie Munger is, in many ways, even wiser than Buffett, and I think he's definitely more open-minded than Buffett is. He is less. Warren Buffett is a lot more an American nationalist. Bottom line, he would still think that America is the greatest country in the world, and so on and so forth. Whereas Charlie Munger is both of them read very widely, but Charlie Munger's vision and attitude towards other civilization, other societies, is very open-minded. He is able to look at the strength and the weaknesses of the American system versus, say, another system, another society, say, for example, the Chinese society. So that, I think, is something very hard to find, especially from a highly successful American, right? And if you look at the next photo, Charlie Munger has said many, many times, over many, many years, that he loves Confucianism. He is an admirer of Confucius. He has declared himself to be a Confucianist. So, to us, you might find that, what's the big deal? After all, Confucius is a great philosopher. But to be able to find a highly successful contemporary Westerner who can openly express his admiration of a Chinese philosopher is very, very, very rare. Very hard to find. Almost impossible. And Charlie Munger doesn't say that he respect and admire Confucianism quietly. He says it openly, even to the Western press. He has that courage, he has that honesty to be able to say that, look, I think what Confucius said about this is brilliant, makes a lot of sense, right? And if that kind of open-mindedness, if that kind of wisdom can be found in some of the American politicians, especially the American politicians, because they are very, very insular. If some of the American politicians and their presidents can be like Charlie Munger, we would have a world that is be very prosperous and very peaceful. You know how narrow-minded, how close-minded the Americans can be. You know, my Australian director, he's Caucasian, he's a white Australian, right? And he was in New York. This was a couple of years ago. He was in the Greenwich district, the Greenwich community of New York, which is a very cosmopolitan district of New York City. And he was talking to a Caucasian, a white American. And this white American asked my Australian director, he says, wow, you speak good English. So this Caucasian Australian director of mine was so shocked. You know, he's obviously white skinned, and this white American doesn't even know that Australia speaks English. And this is in New York City. So can you imagine in a country where people are so ignorant and so close-minded, and then suddenly you have a personality, a successful person like Charlie Munger who says openly that I love Confucius, I treasure Confucianism, and I'm a Confucianist. That shows the amount of courage he has, the open-mindedness that he has, the wisdom that he has. And it's not just that he reads Confucius, he reads Einstein, he reads all kinds of philosophers from other ages, other centuries as well. All right. And can we look at the next photo? Okay, you may say that what's the big deal? Confucius, after all, is well known all over the world. But Charlie Munger also openly says that he admires the Communist Party of China, that the Communist Party of China has implemented a lot of policies that are excellent, that are good, and in fact, America should copy some of them. Wow, that is so refreshing. It is like if I'm in America, if I'm an American, that's like a breath of fresh air suddenly blow into my room, which is filled with all the foul smell. So it's not just it's not just the Communist Party that he has openly expressed his respect and admiration. It's also China as a country. He says that China in the next 10, 20 years is going to succeed brilliantly. And it will outperform of all the major economies in the world. China will be the one that will outperform the rest. Doesn't stop there. Next photo. BYD. I mean, because of him, and of course, Charlie Munger's Chinese partner, right? Well, they call it Li Lu. I think it's Lu Li, you know. So, you see, they were introduced. They meaning Buffett and Charlie Munger were introduced to BYD, and it was Charlie Munger who convinced Berkshire Hathaway to invest about 200 over million US dollars way back in 2008 in BYD. I think that was probably the biggest non-Western investment that Berkshire Hathaway has made at that point in time, right? And of course, BYD has turned out extremely well. And Charlie Munger says their investment in BYD is his most successful investment ever. Not just American investment, but anywhere, right? So Can we look at BYD's logo? BYD. So they're going to bring their electric cars, electric vehicles into Malaysia. You might want to consider buying BYD electric cars instead of Tesla. And Charlie Munger's admiration and respect for BYD is not just at the company level. He also openly expressed his admiration and respect for the CEO, Mr. Wang. He says he, in many ways, is even better than Elon Musk. So here you have a very successful American in a country that's very often close-minded and insular, openly saying that he respects Confucius, he loves Confucianism, he respects the Communist Party of China, China as a country, and BYD as a Chinese company. And in fact, he says that there are many great Chinese companies out there who have done much better than the American companies, but selling at cheaper valuation. And therefore, you should be investing in these Chinese companies. But Warren Buffett doesn't. If not for Charlie Munger, Berkshire Hathaway wouldn't have bought this Chinese stock. So you find that between the two, Warren Buffett's talents are very confined to just within America itself. It's a very narrowly focused type of investment approach, just American stock. And Buffett dare not move out into other areas. In many senses of the word, Buffett is more close-minded than Charlie Munger is. Because for Charlie Munger is also investing outside America, but he's open-minded enough to be able to see how other economies function, how non-American companies work, and to be able to see the merit in them. And of course, you may say that his Chinese partner, Lu Li or Li Lu, of course, helped him in that sense. But Buffett also knows this Chinese partner of Charlie Munger. So I find it amazing, right? For us in the East, in Asia, non-Western people, it's very common for us to respect and admire Switzerland or a European company like Nestle, or Starbucks, or to be able to admire the Western civilization because we're also colonized. It's so acceptable for the non-Western to look up to the West. But for a Westerner to be able to look up to the East, and in this case particularly not just a great philosopher, but the political system, their companies and so on, I think that is really admirable. I mean, it would have been great if Charlie Munger had continued to live longer. Then, the next photo, I think the one single person that Charlie Munger admired the most is Lee Kuan Yew. And he said it openly again. And he says he admires Lee Kuan Yew so much that Charlie Munger has got a bust, a bust, B-U-S-T, a bust of Lee Kuan Yew in his own house. He says that's how much he admires Lee Kuan Yew. And he says it's incredible. I mean, he's able to tell you clearly why he respects and admires Lee Kuan Yew so much. He says he's easily the most successful leader the world has ever seen. So here is a person who is a co-chairman who helps co-partner of a huge American conglomerate, and yet is able to open his mind to a lot of foreign ideas and not lose track of what is important. I think that is the brilliance of Charlie Munger compared with Warren Buffett. I'm comparing the two. And I think for those reasons, I find that Charlie Munger earns a lot more respect from me than Warren Buffett. Of course, you cannot deny the success of Warren Buffett, but all I'm saying is that there are different skills from different angles, and Warren Buffett is, of course, a lot richer than Charlie Munger. But to Charlie Munger, I think to be able to have $2 to $3 billion US, I think that's good enough. It would be good enough for me anyway. Okay, so those are the 4 or 5 reasons why. I mean, I can talk more, but those are the major ones that I think will explain why it's worth reading a lot of the things that Charlie Munger says. He has not really written a book except for this Charlie's Almanac, but a lot of articles have been written about him, a lot of books have been written about him, and it's worth investing your time in not just understanding his investment philosophy, but also to understand his wisdom and his philosophy of life. So with that, maybe we come to your comments, if there are any. Okay, from Satyam Chandravanam says, interesting our topic, and thank you for sharing. And Paul asked why Charlie Munger bought Alibaba and then later sold and comment negatively about Alibaba. That is a bit tricky. You see, because Charlie Munger actually criticized Jack Ma and actually supported what the Chinese government did with regards to Alibaba and Jack Ma. He says that Jack Ma was actually stupid in criticizing the Chinese banking system. And this is what Charlie Munger says, if you understand what the Chinese banking system means in the entire context of the Chinese economy, that was a very stupid thing of Jack Ma to do, and he deserves what he gets from the Chinese government. I totally agree with Charlie Munger, and I think Jack Ma has got, probably at that time, too big for his own good. So the reason why Charlie Munger sold is because, you see, Charlie Munger and like Warren Buffett, they are super conservative. They don't use leverage to invest. They don't use borrowings to invest in the stock market. But when it came to Alibaba, Charlie Munger used leverage to buy Alibaba shares. So that was how bullish he was on Alibaba, right? Of course, now when you look at it now, you might say that his purchase was a mistake. But I think in the case of Alibaba, the final chapter has not been written yet. You cannot write off Alibaba, right? Yet, at the moment, Pinduoduo PDD seems to be doing better than Alibaba, but the platform business in China is super, super competitive. And that is one of the reasons why people like Charlie Munger supports what the Chinese government did to Jack Ma and Alibaba. Because the Western governments, Europe, UK, Australia, US, have been trying to curb the monopolistic powers of Amazon.com, of Alphabet, of Facebook, but they can't because of their so-called democratic processes. Right? But China can do it a lot faster. But these platform companies, if you don't mention, they are very powerful and they can create a lot of hidden side effects. In the case of Alibaba, one of the complaints that the ordinary Chinese business, especially the SMEs in China, complaining about the platform economy was that they were monopolizing they were exploiting the smaller businesses. They say that, for example, if you have your goods on Taobao, you cannot sell your goods anywhere else, and you have to accept my terms. So the Chinese government says, no, that is not fair. So I have to open up, right? Now, philosophically, economically, what Chinese government did is correct. And the only thing that the Western government cannot do is because they have this, they've got to go through court, they've got to go through so many processes that they find that they cannot control the monopolistic powers of Google, of Meta, of Facebook, and Amazon.com. So Charlie Munger is saying that what the Chinese government did is what the Western government should have done. So anyway, the sci-fi is that temporarily there has been a negative impact on the business of Alibaba, right? And same thing, because they wanted to go into cloud business. Well, Alibaba was getting to be very successful in the cloud business, as successful as AWS. And the Alibaba's cloud business was super competitive. Now, the only thing was, at the same time, because you have got a lot of servers, a lot of data centers where you are going to store personal data, all kinds of data. And it so happens that you have this US-China tension where data in all types have become a national strategic item. So because of that, the Chinese government has to introduce laws whereby they have to impose certain controls over the cloud business. So those are things which I think happen because of external factors like geopolitical tension and so on. But the fundamental thesis of Charlie Munger finding Alibaba to be a very attractive company, undervalued company, I think that hasn't changed. I still believe that Alibaba eventually will turn out to be hugely successful. If you look at the journey of Amazon.com, if you bought at the peak of Amazon.com in 2000, the share price plunged 90%, 90. And from about 1999 to about 2010, 2011, for the next 10 to 12 years, Amazon.com was losing money like mad. And the share price you bought at about, say, $200 in 2000 was about $10, $20 for the next 10 years. And you have cursed and swear at Amazon.com. But people overlook the business, the strength of the business model of Amazon.com. And subsequently, of course, even if you bought at the peak in 2000, if you hold Amazon.com up to now, you make thousands of percent. So in the case of Alibaba, I think it's going through a difficult period, some outside the control, some within the control, some imposed by the Chinese government, some are because the platform business in China is intentionally very competitive because Chinese government wants, although you may think that Communist China is a centrally, controlled economy, that kind of mindset is wrong, because the Chinese government essentially wants the platform companies to benefit the 1.4 billion Chinese consumers and the SMEs, and of course, the platform companies must also be financially successful. So these objectives are the objectives that Charlie Munger says the Western government should do, including America, but they can't. And now Alibaba is going through a period where they have faced these uncertainties, but give them a few years. I think they'll come out even stronger than before. Sorry, it's a long answer to a very short question. From Mr. Kaur, good opportunity to know intimately about Charlie Munger. Thanks for sharing. And then Mr. Ling, what do you think about what do you think would be Charlie Munger's most relevant investing advice to the young investors of today? Oh, I think he'll tell you the same thing. He'll tell you, you got to do value investing, you got to be long term. The keyword that he uses is you got to be very patient and rational. Right? Patient means that not just holding stocks for a long time, but patient to wait for the right opportunities to turn up. In that sense, he and Buffett have the same. That look, you don't always have to be investing. Wait for the right opportunities, and then when the right opportunities turn up, invest heavily into that particular opportunity, and then just hold on to it, be patient, hold on to it. So I would be very sure, 100%, 101% sure that he'll give the same advice, because people like him and Buffett or Philip Fisher and so on, they have thought through the whole process very carefully, and they have made huge successes out of their methodology. They're not going to change. Whether it's the investor of today, whether you're Gen Z, Millennial, Gen Y, Baby Boomer, they give you the same advice. So I think those would be what he would say. Okay, we are about close to 12 o'clock. We thank you for attending today's live. We hope you find it useful. Share with as many people as you can and support us. Subscribe to our very affordable, super affordable newsletter, the www.icapital.biz, and then give us your suggestions as to what topics you'd like us to talk about, and we will see you again very soon. All right. Next week, I think I may have to do it. Next week, I'll be in Indonesia on a research trip. So I hope I can find the good internet and so on and so forth. Then maybe we can do a live session from somewhere in Indonesia. So if you have any questions, any topics to suggest, don't forget us. And with that, I thank you again and have a good weekend. Bye-bye.